I remember feeling like I was a burden in my own home. So oftentimes I would make time to read in the morning and at night when everyone else was sleeping because she would get mad and annoyed if I read and relaxed during the day. There was one conversation I recall after our separation where she pulled up to pick up our daughter and was waiting outside. I was chatting with her, feeling sorry for myself, as I normally did at that time, still believing that the person who harmed me could be the person who healed me. I was explaining how I couldn't go near the church anymore. And she looked at me and said, I thought you were supposed to be a faithful man of God or something. And in that moment, I felt numb and angry. Why? Because she weaponized my faith against me. She turned my spiritual struggle into evidence of my weaknesses. And if you're listening to this right now, if someone has used your faith, your calling, your identity as a weapon against you, I need you to understand something. You're not fighting a personality disorder. You're fighting the same spirit that attacked Eve in a perfect garden and Jesus in one of his finest spiritual moments. Today, we're talking about the narcissistic spirit and why Satan is the first narcissist.
Yeah, check the mic, 1, 2. This ain't a whisper, this a roar coming through. They try to bury us, but the seed just grew. Now the concrete cracks and the truth breaks through. They told you it was over, said you never survive. But the dead man walking is fully alive. No one is coming to save you, so sharpen the knife. Turn up the podcast, welcome to the brilliant life. Don't let them tell you your story's been spun. Your chapter's not closed, your battle's not done. Every scar's a lesson, every fall a rise. Look them in the eye.
Welcome to the Brilliant Life Podcast. I'm Mike Moulton. This is a tactical briefing for men navigating divorce, betrayal, and the collapse of everything they thought was solid. Listen, before we dive in today, I have a favor. If this content is helping you rebuild your life after betrayal, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It helps other men find this very briefing when they need it most. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up and turn on the notifications so you don't miss episode 7. All right, I'm ready to get to work. Let's go. Let me take you deeper into what covert narcissistic abuse actually looks like. Because most men, they don't recognize it until it destroys them. I remember when we were first married, and oftentimes there were points throughout our marriage where she would talk about wanting to go back out clubbing or to the bar. I thought, she's got to be bored at home. Maybe this really wasn't her true desire. So I did everything I could to try to make her happy and often failed. One time I went to go pick her up from a girls' night and I was made to wait in the car for almost an hour. I thought she would leave once I arrived, so I wore my pajamas. And I sat there waiting in my pajamas outside the night. Physical affection, I often felt as well, was a chore. I found myself making constant overtures and efforts to ensure that she would continue to love me. But she appeared bored, withdrawn, distracted, preoccupied. So I started bringing flowers on a weekly basis. Sometimes her favorite bottle of wine, and then we started going out weekly on Thursday night date nights. I felt like I was performing for someone who was really not interested in me. And if I didn't meet certain expectations, she'd withhold affection from me. Gentlemen, if this sounds familiar, you need to understand what's happening. This isn't she's going through a phase. This isn't marriage is hard. This is demasculinization. This is a systematic dismantling of your sense of worth, your calling, your identity as a man made in the image of God. And here's what I've recently come to understand through reflection. Satan intends to make people question their creation in the image of God. That's the pattern. That's the goal. That's the spirit operating behind narcissistic abuse. So let me take you to the beginning, to the origin of narcissism itself. Where do we find it? Ezekiel 28. We see at that time the fall of Lucifer. And here's what he says. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of the assembly. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. 5 I will statements, 5 declarations of self elevation, 5 refusals to submit to any authority above himself. This is the original narcissistic injury. Pride, self exaltation, the belief that I should be God. Satan isn't just evil, he's a prototype narcissist, the first one to say, my will matters more than God's will. My perspective is reality. I deserve all worship. And then in Genesis 3, we see the first victim. He comes to Eve. And notice, he doesn't attack God directly. He doesn't say God is evil. He does something more insidious. He asks a question. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? That's gaslighting before the term existed. He's planting doubt. He's reframing reality. He's making Eve question what God actually said. And Eve corrects him, but Satan doubles down. You will not certainly die. God knows that when you eat from this tree, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God. Translation, God is withholding from you. He's threatened by you. He doesn't have your best interest at heart. You deserve better than this. This is Darvo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Satan positions God as the oppressor and Eve as the victim who deserves to break free from God. And guess what? Eve eats the fruit, not because she's weak, not because she's stupid, but because she's been gaslighted into questioning her own reality. See, she doubted God's character. She doubted his goodness. She doubted that being made in the image of God was enough. And that is exactly what your narcissistic ex-wife did to you. Now, let's fast forward to Luke 4, the wilderness. Jesus has been fasting for 40 days. He's physically weak, spiritually focused, and Satan shows up. Watch the tactic. Satan says, if you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread. Then again, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down from here. And the third time, he attacks Jesus' mission, offering him all the kingdoms of the world if Jesus will just worship him. Do you see the pattern? If you are the Son of God, Satan isn't offering Jesus bread or the kingdoms. He's attacking Jesus' identity. He's making Jesus question who he actually is. Are you really Son of God? Prove it. Show me. If you're really chosen, you wouldn't be suffering like this. And this is exactly what narcissistic abuse does to you. My ex-wife said to me, God told me to love you, but she couldn't explain why she loved me. She admitted I wasn't her usual type, but she claimed God changed her preferences. That sounds spiritual, sounds like a testimony, but here's what it actually was. It was her positioning herself as God's prophet, delivering a divine mandate. And when I was sick, genuinely ill, I had lost 25 pounds, my skin literally turning gray, she was angry with me. She insisted I was fine and I would recover easily. Listen, when you're sick and the person who claims God told her to love you gets angry at your weakness, you're not in a marriage. This is a performance contract. And the terms are simple. You perform. You meet her expectations. You jump through the hoops. And maybe, just maybe, you'll get the affection you desire. But you won't, because it was never really available. She wasn't available. Gentlemen, listen closely. When someone uses God told me as a weapon to control you, they're not speaking for God. They're speaking from the same spirit that told Eve, God is holding out on you. When someone makes you question your calling, your faithfulness, your identity as a man made in God's image, they're operating from the same playbook Satan used on Jesus. If you are the Son of God, if you're really a man of God, if you're really a good father, if you're really faithful, it's the same attack. It's the same spirit, the same goal. Make you and I question our creation in the image of God. Now, here's where it gets really dangerous. And this is what took me the longest to understand. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 2 that the person with the Spirit of God makes judgments about all things. That is, God gave you and I spiritual discernment, the ability to sense when something is right or something is wrong. God gave us the ability to hear his voice, to know truth from error. But narcissistic abuse and gaslighting, as I've said previously, jams the signal. We misunderstand, we misread, we don't listen. Here's what I experienced. God's voice was steady and focused, allowing me to relax and gain understanding. But whenever I shared my thoughts and feelings with her, she completely dismissed them, put them to the side. God's approach validated me. Hers did not. She used to get angry that I would talk to my sisters about what was going on in our lives. She felt I was telling them too much, but they were offering me wisdom about how actually she was treating me. And I noticed a pattern. Anyone could see through her. Anyone who validated something was wrong suddenly became a problem. She would plant seeds of doubt about them. They don't understand the situation, Mike. They're being judgmental. They're trying to control you. They don't have your best interest at heart. It was subtle. It wasn't outright, don't talk to them. It was making me feel guilty for seeking counsel from people who actually loved me. Let me break it down. What was actually happening at that time? Because this is the most insidious form of control. There are 5 characteristics of covert narcissistic isolation. Number 1, the covert nature. I wasn't physically isolated from people. I was mentally isolated. She didn't forbid me from talking to my sisters or friends. She just made me question whether I should. 2, the guilt mechanism. She made me feel that I was wrong for talking to my sisters about things that didn't seem right, that sharing my concerns was a betrayal of her, that seeking wisdom from people who loved me was being disloyal. Number 3, the self-censorship. So I stopped. Not because she forbade it, but because she made me feel guilty for doing it. That's the victory of covert control. She didn't have to cut me off from people. She just had to make me cut myself off. Number 4, the insidious victory. She didn't lock me in a room. She locked me in my own head. I could physically talk to anyone I wanted to, but mentally, I was isolated with her version of reality. And number 5, making you doubt your own judgment about who you can trust. That's mental isolation. That's gaslighting at its finest. It's not controlling your behavior, it's controlling your thinking. Do you see a pattern? Anyone who could validate reality had to be painted as the enemy. The people who knew her best, who could see what she really was, she would suddenly poison in my mind. My sisters were overstepping. Others didn't understand. My friends didn't know the full story. And here's the most insidious part. I wasn't physically isolated. I could still talk to them, but I was mentally isolated. I was left to doubt their intentions. I was made to feel that I was wrong for talking to my sister about things that didn't seem right and sharing my concerns. That, to her, was disloyal. So what did I do? I stopped. I felt guilty. I became mentally isolated. I was left alone. I started to doubt God's voice. I started to doubt whether I knew God's voice because I was so desperate for peace with her. Listen to me. If in your relationship you have to silence God's voice to keep peace, you're not in a relationship. You're in something different. You're in captivity. You're in narcissistic abuse. If you know something is wrong, but you suppress that knowing because speaking the truth will trigger rage, you've been gaslighted. If everyone who loves you is concerned, but the narcissist convinces you they're just all jealous or toxic or don't understand, you've been mentally isolated. That's not love. That's control. And it's the same spirit that told Eve, don't listen to God, listen to me. Now, I want to talk to you about something else because this is where things can actually change. And I want to remind you, you're not fighting your ex-wife. You're not even just fighting narcissistic personality disorder. You're fighting a spirit. Again, that same spirit that attacked Eve in a perfect garden. Again, that same spirit that attacked Jesus in one of his finest spiritual moments. And if Satan targeted the first woman in a paradise and the Son of God, why would you think that you're immune? You weren't weak. You weren't stupid. You weren't faithless. You were ambushed by a spiritual pattern that's been operating since the beginning of time. But here's the other side of that truth. If this is the same spirit that attacked Eve and Jesus, then the same victory that Jesus won over Satan is the same victory available to you and to me today. Jesus didn't lose. He didn't get manipulated. He didn't question his identity as a son of God. And in the next episode, episode 7, I'm going to show you exactly how he did it. Because Jesus gives us an actual blueprint to follow, a pattern, the way to defeat this narcissistic spirit and onslaught. In the past years, I experienced a lot of different realizations, and those happened through EMDR therapy, through immersing myself in scripture, through praying the rosary of all things. And I began to understand something I had only known in theory. God's love, it transcends all the abuse that we ever endure. While she could lay claim to my finances, she could never touch my personhood. Despite relentless efforts, she's unable to diminish who I am. She could take the house if she wanted. She could get the church's approval. She could take my money, but she couldn't take the image of God stamped on my soul. And that's the truth you need to anchor yourself in today. She can question your faithfulness. She can mock your calling. She can withhold affection and sow doubt and mentally isolate you from everyone who loves you. But she cannot touch who you are in Christ. Satan tried the same thing with Jesus. If you are the Son of God. And Jesus, he didn't defend himself. He didn't explain his perspective, and he didn't try to make Satan understand. He simply said, "It is written." And friends, that's your gray rock. That's your identity anchor. That's your weapon against the spirit that wants you to question your creation in the image of God. But you need to know how to use it. You need to know what Jesus actually said. You need to understand how Paul teaches us that the Spirit restores that discernment. And that is episode 7. And that will be next week. So here's your mission until next week. I want you to answer one question. Where has someone made you question your creation in the image of God? Not just where did they hurt you? I think that's way too vague. Where did they make you doubt that God made you who you are? Where did they make you question your calling, your giftings, your identity as a son of the Most High God? I want you to write that down and name it specifically, because the next episode, we're going to dismantle that lie using the same weapons Jesus used in Luke 4. Jesus consistently provides us a foundational blueprint, a pattern that the apostles expand upon throughout the New Testament. This blueprint serves as a guide on how to overcome the long-standing presence of narcissism, a defeated enemy since the dawn of creation. Listen, hear that again. Narcissism is actually a defeated enemy since the dawn of creation. The question is, how did Jesus attain this victory? How can we equip ourselves with the same tools to combat the spiritual abuse that often accompanies narcissistic behavior? And again, that's what episode 7 will deliver. And here's a bonus. This doesn't just help you beat an external foe. This actually helps you with the internal one. The victim mentality that creeps up from within. The narcissistic wound in our own hearts that wants to blame, control, and elevate self above God. The victory isn't just over her. It's over the spirit that wants to make you God's rival instead of God's son. You're not fighting alone. You're fighting with the one who already won. This is the Brilliant Life Podcast, and I'm grateful to be here with you week by week. And it doesn't go unnoticed that you choose to spend time here. So I hope this was valuable. And if it is valuable, please, again, like and subscribe and pass it along. Until next week, have a great week.
Concrete cracks and the truth breaks through. They told you it was over, said you never survive. But the dead man walking is fully alive. No one is coming to save you, so sharpen the knife.